92, Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers. LA 21 12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Friday, working towards the weekend. We're brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos and fired up. You're here with us. Been short week for most around. Short week for us here, and we're coming to the end of it here, first week of 2025. And fired up, you're with us. Preston Guy here in 15 minutes talking LSU football. Kevin Ingram is going to jump aboard in 30 minutes. He is the play-by-play voice of the Vanderbilt Commodores. Vanderbilt and LSU to open up SEC basketball play for both of those teams tomorrow inside the PMAC afternoon tip-off. Really excited to talk a little bit about that. Saints finishing things up in Tampa. We'll certainly get a pick for that game. I got to get you set for the NFL weekend, the final weekend of the NFL season, Week 18. My thoughts on LSU and Vanderbilt are coming up, and I want to talk LSU offense and defense, statistically speaking, in the 2024 season. I wrote two pieces. One of them was already up at LouisianaSports.net. The other one will come probably this afternoon or tomorrow, but I thought it was interesting to take a look at those. So we will certainly do all of that and appreciate you being with us. Our Friday show is brought to you by Corks, and we start them each and every day the same way we start with that Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Every single week, I would take LSU's football opponent, and I would dissect them statistically, and I would see exactly where they stand in regard to the rest of the conference, the rest of the country, and all of the important statistics that you look at. Certainly doesn't tell the entire story, but gives you a sense of what the opponent kind of looks like. I rarely did that with LSU. And now that the dust is settled, I wanted to go back and just kind of do that exercise with this LSU team and see what the numbers say. Because I realize that a lot of y'all don't dive into numbers quite as much as I do, because I'm here talking about it each and every day, and you've got a real job to tend to while I yap about sports. But sometimes the numbers tell you exactly what your eyes see. And sometimes you look at something and you go, huh, really? And with the LSU offense, I would propose that the numbers generally told the story that your eyes saw. With the defense, which I will talk about in hour number 2, and there will be a piece up on LouisianaSports.net about it in the coming hours, the numbers told a little bit of a different story, and it kind of brought me back a little bit. And again, I'll talk about that in the second hour. But let's go into offense. And I realize that numbers don't play great on radio because you don't have it in front of you, and there's a lot of things bouncing around in your head. So I'm not going to go over the top into the numbers, but I'll paint the picture and then kind of give my commentary on it, because I think the reviews on LSU's offense this year, when I talk to LSU fans, are a little bit mixed. There are some that feel good about the direction of the offense, that like the quarterback, that felt like the passing ability was there, and that they feel really good about what's to come in 2025 with the LSU offense. There are some that think Garrett Nussmeier is a turnover machine, that Joe Sloan's in over his head, and that the LSU offense wasn't good enough this year. And so I wanted to kind of see what the numbers say, and I'll give you kind of my 2 cents on the whole deal. These are all compared to the rest of the Southeastern Conference. And once again, I feel like I'm tossing in all these caveats, and it is what it is. I know everyone didn't play the same schedule. I know everyone didn't play the same non-conference schedule. I know everybody didn't play the same in-conference schedule. Some teams went on the road to tougher teams. Yeah, if I take Georgia's schedule and I juxtapose it with Texas' schedule, you get a whole different kettle of fish. I get it all, but everybody played 12 or 13 games. I think that your proof is pretty well in your pudding, no matter what the schedule may have said. So with that caveat tossed in, let's dive into some of these numbers. LSU finished 7th in the SEC in scoring. They scored 30 a game. LSU finished 7th in yards per play. Now, when you talk about actual just gaining yards, total offense, LSU was 5th in the league. So you're looking at kind of the top of the middle tier of offense is kind of what LSU was at this point. And that's kind of what I saw. I saw a team that did a great job scoring points against South Carolina. I saw a team that did certainly a good enough job of scoring points against a tough Ole Miss defense. I saw a team that that did its job against Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. I saw a team that really struggled against Texas A&M in the second half. I saw a team that really struggled against Alabama in the rain. It wasn't consistent. It wasn't a disaster. It was the top of the middle tier of the SEC offensively. Well, why? Well, it starts with the passing. That was the identity. And LSU threw the ball more than any team in the SEC this year. First in the league in pass attempts. They were second in the SEC in passing offense. They threw for 315 a game. Yards per attempt, a little bit middle of the pack. It's ninth because you threw it so often. Completion percentage, you were fifth, so you did complete a lot of your throws. And as far as just getting the ball in the end zone, LSU was third in the SEC in passing touchdowns. That is a really good passing offense. If I told you entering the season, brand new quarterback who had started one game in his entire career, in regards to the Southeastern Conference, with Quinn Ewers and with Jackson Dart and with, what goes on at Georgia with Beck and with Nico Iamaleava and with all these guys in the Southeastern Conference. Connor Wigman was thought of in that way early on. If I were to tell you that you were going to finish first in attempts, second in passing offense, third in passing touchdowns, and fifth in completion percentage, you would go, okay, that's a good passing offense. And I think everyone would have taken that with a brand new quarterback and Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas gone. But you well know the other side of this coin. Rushing offense, 16th in a 16-team league, dead last. Rushing attempts per game, 16th in a 16-team league, dead last. Yards per carry, 11th, not good. And I can promise you this. No team is going to compete for an SEC championship, compete to get into the 12-team playoff, and compete to win a championship, which is the goal around here, finishing dead last in the SEC in rushing. And once again, you know they sucked at running the ball. I don't know if you knew for sure they were dead last, but they were dead last in the SEC in rushing. And I know the lines we were fed about how the boxes were stacked and we had to throw the ball and we were checking into throws because we didn't feel like the look was good enough for run. Phooey. You can't finish 16th in the SEC in rushing. Absolutely unacceptable at LSU. And so you look at some of the ancillary statistics that aren't the nuts and bolts there, which are yards and points. Sacks allowed. LSU allowed the fewest sacks in the Southeastern Conference. And say what you will about the offensive line. And that stat I just gave you, where they were 16th in the SEC in rushing, is an indictment on the offensive line, unquestionably. But I can also tell you that if you throw the ball more than anybody in the league, which LSU did, and you give up the fewest sacks in the SEC, that's a hell of a job. And that's a spot where I expect that LSU will take a step back next year, pass protection. Now, a lot of those guys were gone in the game on Tuesday night, and Garrett Nussmeier was not sacked, and he threw it almost 40 times. So that's a hopeful trend there, but just I got to call it like I see it. You throw it the most times in the league, and you give up the fewest sacks, that's pretty damn good. Now, you look to another indictment on this team offensively. In 20-plus yard plays created, you were sixth. That's mediocre. Okay. In 10-plus yard rushes, you were dead last. Could not create chunk runs at all. Not a surprise. You ran it fewer than anybody in the league, and you ran it for 10-plus yards fewer times than anybody in the league. However, you did a better job completing 20-yard passes, fourth in the league. You would figure that throwing it more than everybody. But you, and this is a little bit of a weird stat, but I think it does tell a story. You were dead last in the SEC in 50-plus yard passes. Now, 50-yard passes don't happen very often, and you can't count on them. They're not a huge part of anybody's offense, although Ole Miss creates a lot of them. But I would, in my estimation, if you are seeing stacked boxes, as they're telling me, that's why we can't run the ball, because the box is stacked, and your passing game is productive as anybody in the league, and you can't bust the top off, that's a problem. It might be schematic, but my guess is it's probably personnel-based because Chris Hilton came in and he did it twice against Oklahoma, he did it twice against Baylor. I think that's personnel. Hilton's coming back, Varian Brown's coming in. I think that number goes up next year. But again, it's another issue with the offense. If you're going to lean on the passing game significantly and you can't create big, huge chunk plays down the field consistently, and you're telling me that there's stacked boxes, that's a problem. It's something they've absolutely got to look at. And then the final piece to this puzzle, your percentages, and then some of the other stats that we get to, like time of possession. On third downs, you were the best in the SEC. You converted 49% of your third downs. What that led to is a team that finished second in the SEC in time of possession. A lot of people say time of possession doesn't matter. I'd still like to win time of possession. I think having the ball is better than not having the ball. And I think LSU, although they couldn't run it, they could control the ball because they were as good as anybody in the SEC at completing short and intermediate passes, which is what you have to do a lot of on third down. That's why they were the best third down team in the league. Fourth down percentage, I don't really care about that. You were tied for 10th. You converted 50%. How aggressive was Brian Kelly? You were 8th in the conference in terms of times you attempted a fourth down. Here's a huge one, though. Huge statistic. Red zone touchdown percentage. LSU finished 14th in the SEC, third to last in red zone touchdown percentage. Only 56.6% of the time you got a touchdown. That comes back to the running game. It makes sense you're great on third down because you're really good at completing intermediate and short passes. It makes all the sense in the world that you stink in the red zone because you can't run the ball. As far as interceptions thrown, you were 11th. That means there were 10 teams that threw, that there were 5 teams that threw more than you, 6 teams that threw more than you. And then in turnovers, you were 6th, right in the middle of the pack as far as turnovers go. So the overview here is not jarring, and it wasn't meant to be jarring. It is what it is. You were really good at the short passing game. You didn't stretch the field well enough. You stunk running the football. It bit you in the red zone. And that's really what LSU was. And so if you're trying to get from a 4-loss team to a 2-loss team or a 1-loss team that competes for championships, you know what you got to do offensively. You have to run the ball better. That creates a better opportunity in the red zone. And you've got to find a way to stretch the field. And those two can go hand in hand. You run the ball better. Guys got to come up, stop the run. You can hit them over the top. LSU became one-dimensional. We're going to try to complete 8-yard passes. And that's what they did really well. And it led to a lot of third down conversions and good time of possession. And they scored some points. They were in the top. Let's see, what was the scoring offense? They were 7th in scoring and 5th in total offense. It was not a disaster. So I don't think that I would look at Joe Sloan's first year as a failure at all. I think I would look at it as flawed. And you know what the flaws are. You have to go get more offensive linemen. You've got to work on the run game and being more creative and productive in the run game with an understanding you can lean on a really good passing game, which is what LSU had. So that's the mission for the staff. 1, in creating the roster for next year, which they've done the majority of already. And 2, in what you work on in the spring, what you tell your guys in the summer, and what gets implemented in fall camp to go to Clemson and be a different football team. That's what's got to happen. If you'd like to take a look at all of this stuff that's written out in kind of my written piece on all of it, it's over at LouisianaSports.net there on the homepage. It's called, Statistically Speaking, the 2024 LSU Offense. And that's a look at the 2024 LSU Offense. It's our Genesis opening drive here on this Friday. If you're looking for LSU football content, you can always find it at Hunt on LSU. That used to be only on YouTube, where we'd have all our LSU content right there. You can still find on YouTube, but you can find it in podcast form as well. Just search Hunt on LSU. Wherever you find your podcast, you can find all of it right there. Like, subscribe, rate, review. Help get our content in front of as many eyes and ears as we possibly can. We appreciate y'all's help with that every single day. Our Friday show is brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. We'll step aside. Preston Guy, TigerBait.com is next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. BoudreauxElectrical.com is the website. How about some peace of mind? Peace of mind, powerful thing. We live down here in South Louisiana. You understand that hurricanes happen, ice storms happen. Power outages are just part of our life down here in South Louisiana. You can eliminate that risk with Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Get a home standby generator installed as quickly as you can. Understand that when you start that process with Boudreaux's Electrical, you're going to be working with full-time Boudreaux's Electrical's employees from start to finish. They don't 1099 somebody to come handle your job. No, you'll deal with a full-time employee. They'll get the majority of that installation at your home done underground so that it looks nice, and it'll be done with the best quality in piping, wiring, tubing, so that your house is all set up and ready to go when that next hurricane season rolls around, and we know it's always coming. Give them a call at 985-397-1562. Again, that's 985-397-1562 or 225-393-89 in Gonzales. I give you the easy way every day. It's BoudreauxElectrical.com, BoudreauxElectrical.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Got chores that need some extra muscle, but a large piece of equipment is overkill? That's what John Deere compact utility tractors were made for. Powerful enough for the work you need to do. Compact enough for how you need to do it. Find the equipment that's right for you at Sunshine Quality Solutions. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
At Atmos Energy, our Smart Choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Chugging right along on a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. You can find them online at corksfishandshrimp.com. Preston Guy, tigerbait.com. With us each and every Friday, joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Preston, how we doing?
All right, what's going on, man? Doing a lot better after covering a win instead of a loss, as you and I predicted.
Yeah, I did predict that. Hester thinks I'm just an idiot. He fails to recognize that he picked LSU to win 4 times when they lost. But I guess there's nobility in that. There's no nobility in picking the other team when your team wins. So I understand. I walked in the studio this morning and he screamed at me. It's just the way it goes. But yeah, we both picked LSU to lose that game, and they did not. Why did they not lose the game?
Man, it's because a lot of guys stepped up in the roles that, we hadn't seen them previously step up, whether that was out of necessity or whatever it may be. They just did. Trades Green, 2 touchdowns, Chris Hilton, 2 big catches, and these were guys you needed to step up, given, you were very shorthanded with all the opt-outs and the NFL draft guys.
No doubt. How much credit you give Garrett Nussmeier for taking that cast of characters and scoring as many points as LSU did?
Quite a bit, but we've given him quite a bit of credit all season long. He has been the heart and soul of this offense. He clips 4,000 yards, and he's been the guy all year. So you knew you were going to have to rely on his right arm quite a bit. But thankfully, that was the one piece you could rely on that was a constant. But also his offensive line. You got to give those 4 guys playing out of position kudos for stepping up and keeping him off the ground. I believe there was 1 sack in the game, and he threw it quite a bit. So got to give him his praise.
How do you feel about Joe Sloan's first year as the offensive coordinator and play caller?
I think he did an adequate job. It was okay. I think there's a lot he should improve on. We talked about it on our post-game show, and I gave him a C+.
Can you elaborate on that C+? I mean, I feel like everyone's just sitting there listening going, yeah, they couldn't run the ball worth the flip, and they turned it over a little bit too much, but they did create some yards. Is there any more nuance to it than that?
There was some good passing attack. I liked the balance he did. He had an aggressive approach this year. There were certain situations where he dialed up very creative play calls and adjusted, but there were also moments where I felt like he was just very tone deaf to his weaknesses as a team as well. I just think that it was a blend of being all right. And I also think that he was held back quite a bit. I don't think your receivers this year, you dealt with a ton of injuries, and I don't think your receivers were that great to begin with. So, and I think your offensive line not being able to run block all season long, that's a big inhibitor. So kudos for him for putting together the offensive numbers they did with those limitations.
Yeah, they were last in the SEC in rushing attempts per game and last in the SEC in rushing offense in terms of yards per game. Where do you think the rebuild for that starts in this offseason?
Oh, boy. Well, you got to go to the portal and get the guys to do it,
Do you feel like they've started that with the guys that they've added, the two on the offensive line, and then the young players that are going to fill some of those roles?
Yeah, I like the two offensive linemen they've brought in, man. I think that's going to help quite a bit. I do know they're going to be looking for more as the season goes on. But, they're going to be waiting. They're going to be patient and see who – they don't just want just anybody. They're wanting good guys, and we'll see. We'll see who comes up. I have a feeling that there might be guys still playing football who are going to be viable candidates.
It's kind of what the grapevine is suggesting at this point, so we'll kind of leave it at that. Not to spoil my segment that's coming up here 1 hour from right now where I talk about LSU's defense, but just in terms of the numbers, this defense was not very good.
No, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, we watched it, and there were times where they really showed up, but for the season as a whole, statistically, it was bad. What was your thought on its entirety?
So 445 yards passing. That is, you just cannot do that. I think it's quite abundant that they needed help in the secondary. Fortunately, at corner, they've got that coming. At safety, you got to bring in two safeties, not one.
Yeah.
You got to. I mean, you just do not have what it takes to compete on your roster currently. You got to find some good quality players. And right now you brought nobody. Right now what you'd have to do is take some of these corners and give them reps at safety. And I think there's a few guys who are candidates to do that, but I do know you definitely prefer to get a true safety in who experience and quality reps at safety.
When we talk about the poor safety play, are you more so speaking about the passing game or the running game?
I'm sorry, what was that, Hunt?
When we talk about the safety play not being good enough, and Brian Kelly said it on the record, so we're not making this up. He said we got to get more production at safety. Do you immediately go to the passing game, or you go to the running game where they've got to get better at safety?
Man, I get PTSD thinking about clips of Sage Ryan taking an over-aggressive angle and missing the tackle. So, man, it's got to be passing, though. I mean, it has to be. That has to be your biggest area of struggle with that safety position, just because they cover so many more people. But, I mean, both were just so awful this year. And if you look at the Pro Football Focus grades, they were just so bad. I mean, you got to improve in both areas. I don't want to pick one, Hunt. I'm a cop out of that.
That's understandable. None of it was fantastic, that's for sure, and they've got to shore that up moving into 2025. As we sit here, we got a long way to go, but kind of what's your expectation for LSU in 2025? Where do you think they'll be ranked in the preseason as a public perception, and then what do you think that the reasonable expectation is?
I was listening to the guys on before you about this, Haney talk about that. They were thinking right outside the top five. I don't know that they're going to get the national praise and recognition that we are locally looking at this roster. So I think maybe top 10, barely, is what I'm thinking. Maybe like 10, 11, something like that. Because, I mean, yeah, people are going to look up at the portal rankings, see, oh, you brought in the number one class. Okay, that's great. But, you know, I'm not so certain that across the board there's going to be recognition of it. But that being said, I think this is a roster already that's a playoff roster, and I think that you've got chances to improve this thing and possibly make a championship run, but we'll see.
I do have to ask this. In the last 15, 18 hours or so, have you been chirped from South Bend, Indiana at all?
You best believe I have, man. You best believe. They've come to our YouTube channel. Now, my Twitter has been peacefully quiet. And, you know, look, hon, it's just one of those things right now. You just got to hush and wait. Yeah, I think it's too early to deliver judgment. And, you know, of course, the optics are bad for Brian Kelly and great for Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame right now.
At the moment, we'll see. But as I mentioned in the chat on the morning show as they were talking about it, somebody was like, oh, Brian Kelly looks terrible now. And I said, well, Brian Kelly got to the Final Two with Notre Dame, and he got to the Final Four a couple of times.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
He's been here.
He's been here 3 times. Is that right?
Right.
I mean, come on.
So we'll see. It's not any of Brian Kelly's concern at this point, but we'll monitor it from afar. Preston, we appreciate some time. Have a great weekend, man.
All right, thank you, hon. Preston
Guy, TigerBait.com. Catch him on that YouTube channel and, of course, on Twitter as well. Preston has kind of been back and forth with the guys in South Bend since Brian Kelly elected to leave, and all the Notre Dame fans, of course, immediately turned on him and said he was terrible and wasn't good, and they were glad he was gone and all that kind of stuff. And Preston's kind of kept up with that, and he has a way of poking the bear on Twitter at times, and I, for one, really appreciate it because it's greatly entertaining. But then sometimes you have to pay the piper when Notre Dame posts a big win. If he's going to chirp when Notre Dame loses to Northern Illinois, which we saw earlier, they're going to come back when they go down to New Orleans and take down the Dogs, which certainly happened last night. Hester and T-Bob and I were having an interesting conversation about that this morning, and you know they think I'm an idiot, and I probably am an idiot. They played college football, and I watch college football. But my kind of thought on that whole situation is that I feel like we in the SEC over the last 20 years have seen some of these just absolute behemoths of rosters. We've seen it with LSU. We've seen it with Alabama. We've seen it with Georgia. We've seen it with Florida, where you've just got a team and just nobody can stop them. And I just don't sense that this year. I think that Ohio State's the best team, but they've certainly played a dud a month ago, and some of those teams just didn't play duds. They just rolled everybody. And because I don't see that, you know, elite team that you can just identify and see it outside of Ohio State doing that, what they did to Tennessee and to Oregon, it just stands to reason why some other teams could show up. I mean, it's evident to everybody. The Georgia team that we watched last night is not the Georgia team from 4 years ago and 3 years ago. It's just not. It's not the same. There's not as many top 10 picks, top 20 picks. They just didn't quite have the juice. And then you take your starting quarterback out of the mix, and it's just not the level that we have seen. And it certainly stands to reason that Notre Dame is elevated a little bit, but I don't think that it's a situation where they caught Georgia. I think Georgia came back to the pack. Everybody does except Saban. And that's just the way that it kind of is. So that was just my 2 cents. We'll talk a little bit more about the Sugar Bowl moving forward. I thought it was a little bit interesting, but we got other things to do here on the show today. I got to talk Saints and Bucks as we get ready to close down the Saints season. We'll do some of that. Got to get you ready for the final week in the NFL. And I've got my thoughts on LSU and Vanderbilt tomorrow. LSU and Vandy will open up SEC play inside the PMAC. Kevin Ingram is the play-by-play man for the Vanderbilt Commodores. He will join us to talk about that club coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Safety is a big, big deal, especially when you talk about people that are aging and they're in the bathroom. That can be a hazardous situation. Slips and falls can be really, really tough situations. Do your best to mitigate against that. David Duvall and his team can help you with that. They can put in non-slip floors. They can put in guardrails near the slippery areas. They can put walk-in tubs in for convenience and safety. They can put benches in showers. All these things can ensure but they can help mitigate against the issues that could arise in the bathroom. So if you've got a loved one in your life that wants to stay at home, but you're a little bit concerned about that situation in the bathroom, call David Duvall at One Bath and Closets and see what he can do for you. They've got financing options available, 0% for 18 months. If you qualify, start that process today at onebathandclosets.com. You can get a free consultation, see pictures of their fantastic work. They can see some reviews from their satisfied customers. Check them out online. It's One Bath and Closets, online at onebathandclosets.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps are held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Working towards the weekend, Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. I think y'all are well aware of my affinity for hoops, specifically LSU hoops. Love it. And I'll admit, the last 3 weeks have been rough. Watching Stetson, UNO, and Mississippi Valley State come in here and get beat by 60 is just not very interesting. Well, now I'm interested because SEC play is upon us, and the Southeastern Conference is coming off the best non-conference run any of us have ever seen, and it goes all the way through the league. Vanderbilt's certainly no exception there in year one under Mark Byington. Commodores come into Baton Rouge at 12-1 to start conference play, and I'm fired up to talk about it. Kevin Ingram will be on the call for Vanderbilt tomorrow courtside in the PMAC. He's good enough to give us a little bit of time here on this Friday. Kevin, thanks for that time. How are you?
Doing good, Hud. How are you, man?
Doing very well. Excited for the ball game tomorrow, as I know most in Nashville are as well. Let's talk about this team, specifically head coach Mark Byington in his first year. Kind of what was the mission when he showed up?
Yeah, the mission was just to get the program back turned around and in a spot where it had a chance to go to the NCAA tournament on a regular basis. And so far, so good. It's really gone well. It's an exciting style of basketball. Teams averaging 85, 86 points a game. And it's a fun style. And they've reloaded the roster with a lot of veteran players, and that's served this team well. one notable freshman in Tyler Tanner, who's been really good. But, yeah, it's just been really fun so far, and some pretty nice wins, made our way through non-conference, as you talked about. There's some games that you won that were pretty lopsided, and there are also some wins that were good. 4 high major wins plus Nevada in a tournament we played over in Charleston. So, yeah, it's been a fun season so far.
It seems like it's been a lot of fun. You mentioned the points per game. I'm also looking just at the height as a lot of these contributors, and I'm seeing a lot of 6'7" and under. Is it fair to say that Vanderbilt's going to play pretty small tomorrow?
Yeah, that's the thing. Not really a true post player, but you do have a few players here around the 6'7", 6'8" range. Devin McLaughlin certainly fits that description. He's been really good. Coming off a third double-double of the season last time out against New Orleans in the last non-conference game. He's been really efficient shooting the ball. He stepped out and made some threes, but just one of those veteran dudes, as I talked about. He had played at Boston College, and really good rebounder, a good scorer. You got Jalen Carey, who's a guy who came with Coach Byington from James Madison. He's a sophomore, so a little bit earlier in his career. But then, things a little bit thin among the front court players, but you got a lot of different options and ways you can play and a lot of interchangeable parts of this team. So I know we're going to get into some situations in the SEC where you wish you had another big or two, but I think this team will figure out ways to work around that, and really has so far, and it's worked out well.
Yeah, one of the ways is to steal the ball a lot. You've got a bunch of quick, smaller guys, and Vanderbilt steers it as well as anybody in the country, number 1 in the country in steals per game at almost 11. Does that come from pressing, instincts, relentless ball pressure? I mean, how do you lead the nation in steals at this point?
Yeah, a lot of it really is ball pressure, not necessarily cranking up a press or anything like that. It's pressure out on the perimeter that's causing a whole lot of the steals. I talked about Tyler Tanner. He's a freshman. He leads every freshman in the country, has right around 30 steals already through the first 13 games. Grant Huffman, a veteran guy who came over from Davidson, he's right there as well. But you have a lot of guys that just get some knockaways, and all of a sudden you get the steal, you're going the other direction, and you're in transition. Tyler Tanner, though, has led the way. When he comes into the game, the energy really picks up, the tempo picks up, and he's been a big part of those steals for Vanderbilt. And you look at turnovers and turnover margin, Vanderbilt's been terrific in those categories.
That's absolutely going to be the key for LSU in the game tomorrow, I think, is taking care of the ball. I saw this statistic from Vanderbilt Sports Info. Tyler Tanner, as a freshman, played 270 minutes without a turnover. I would be impressed if he went to LSU's rec center against the students and didn't turn it over in 270 minutes. That says a lot to me for a freshman.
Yeah, he's been super efficient, and just a guy who he doesn't play like a true freshman now. Obviously, the competition will get tougher as we get into SEC play, but he's just a really savvy young player. Both his parents were college basketball players, so he was able to lean on that, I'm sure, growing up. And he played in a really good program. He's from around here. He played at Brentwood Academy, which is just south of Nashville. But yeah, that assist to turnover number is really remarkable, and I almost don't want to talk about it too much because you feel like you might jinx it. I mean, to make it 13 games, I don't care who you are, where you are in your career, to make it 13 games without a single turnover is really hard to do.
It really is. Has there been an Achilles heel for Vanderbilt that has caused Mark Byington to lose a little bit of sleep? I know Matt McMahon's extremely concerned about defensive rebounding and turning the ball over. Is there a weakness that Vanderbilt's had at some point?
One thing I would point to maybe is inconsistent three-point shooting. Now, that's been really good the last handful of games. But when this team makes threes, it's really dangerous and really hard to stop, and those points are going to stack up in a hurry. So much of the game is about obviously getting takeaways and turning those into transition points. But three-point shooting is such a key part of what this team does. If this team can make 10 or 12 three-pointers and shoot in the mid-30s, I really like this group's chances. That was a little up and down early in the season, but as this non-conference portion went along, they've been able to make them on a more consistent basis. You got a guy like Tyler Nickel, who's an excellent just knockdown shooter. You got several guys in this team that can really shoot it well from behind the three-point line. But to me, that's a real key and something that's maybe you like to see a little bit more consistent on a game-to-game basis.
Jason Edwards leads this team in scoring by a wide margin. He's at about 19 points a game, and Devin McLaughlin's second at around 12. But he's only started half the games. Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, he started the first chunk of games, and then Mark Byington decided to make a change and bring him off the bench and start Chris Magnon, who's a little bit bigger. And it's worked out great. It's one of those things where Coach looks at it and says, it doesn't really matter who starts because everybody's going to play the same amount of minutes pretty much either way. But when he comes in off the bench, you can usually count on him at about 3 or 4 minutes of the game. he really provides a jolt of energy and scoring. Just one of those players that knows how to put the ball in the basket, whether he's shooting threes, driving to the bucket. He's able to get in there and finish. He's not very big. He's only about 6 feet tall, but he knows how to score. He knows how to get to the free throw line. He's an excellent free throw shooter. And, again, I think coming off the bench or starting, I don't know that it makes that much difference for this team because there's so many interchangeable parts.
I'm curious if you've talked to Coach Byington about the run that the SEC has been on and kind of his impressions in his first year in the league. I'm personally, as an LSU fan, very intimidated by what the next 18 games are going to bring because the league has been so good. I'm curious if y'all have had any of those discussions and just how important this would be. These two teams were picked kind of towards the bottom of the SEC. We know there are a lot of top 15 teams in the league too. So just any discussions that you may have had with him about what's to come over the next couple of months.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit, even in this post game after the New Orleans game back on Monday night. He's like, all right, we're ready to go into this what's been a historical run for the SEC so far. The conference record combined is just crazy.
Yeah.
And I know you have 3 unbeaten teams, and one of them will be not unbeaten after tomorrow with Kentucky and Florida facing. Or there will be some that aren't unbeaten. I correct myself there, but yeah, he's talked a little about how rough it's going to be, and I think he looks forward to the challenge. I mean, this is his first lap around the SEC, and I know Matt McMahon probably felt similar things, when he took his first lap around the league. But it's going to be really tough. This is going to be an 18-game, just absolute meat grinder. If you can come out with 8 or 9 wins, I think you're going to feel pretty good about your chances of getting to the NCAA tournament. But you want to get off to a good start. You don't want to put yourself behind to where you put pressure on yourself to have to win games as the season goes along. So I feel like this game tomorrow is really important for both these teams.
No doubt about it. LSU won 9 league games last year, but because they were so poor in the non-conference, they didn't get in. Nobody did that in the league this year. Everybody's put themselves in position to get there if you're around 500. So we'll see as it all starts tomorrow. Kevin, thanks so much for a little bit of time. Safe travels, and have a great call.
All right, sounds good, Hunter. Appreciate the time.
He's Kevin Ingram, play-by-play voice of Vanderbilt basketball as Tigers indoors tomorrow from the PMAC. I've been really impressed with Mark Byington's team in year one there. Jerry Stackhouse, when I watched Vanderbilt play during his time there, they ran great offense. They created some looks. He just did not ever get the dudes. And I don't know if it was because he hadn't spent a lot of time in college basketball and didn't really know how to work the recruiting angle. I don't know if that Vanderbilt didn't show up in an NIL perspective so he couldn't get players to come. But like when you're being led by a guy like Ezra Magnon, who he was for a couple of years, who's a really good college player, but like he's a point guard that couldn't even attempt threes. It's just hard to win games when that's your main dude who's just trying to fly in there at 6'1" and win at the rim. It's just a hard way to win games, and it just never clicked for Stackhouse, and it was a talent acquisition thing. And so you look at Mark Byington, and he's gone out and assembled a roster a certain way. They're going to play a little bit smaller. They're going to play fast. They're efficient, really efficient on the offensive end, and they've been great stealing the ball on defense. I'll give you kind of my full preview on Vanderbilt in the second hour, but this is just a huge game for LSU and Vanderbilt. I've talked about this a lot, and I'll do it again in hour 2, but the pathway to LSU making the NCAA tournament, which is what we all want, it goes through the PMAC. You just cannot expect, and again, I don't know exactly where they go. I don't have the schedule memorized. You cannot expect to make a living, go into College Station and go into Fayetteville and go into Gainesville and go into Rupp and go into Auburn. Like you're just not going to get a bunch of those. It's just not in the cards. You have to take advantage of some of your games at home, especially against the teams in the bottom half of the league in terms of talent. Vanderbilt is that. Yes, they are 12-1. Yes, they have got some nice wins. They beat TCU by 9. They hammered Virginia Tech on the road by 16. Their only loss is to a good Drake team earlier this year. So they've got some wins, but they're not an uber talented team. They're not going to put 2 guys into the lottery. This is a game LSU desperately needs to win tomorrow. I think everyone is aware of that, and I did this yesterday. I'm going to do it again today, shamelessly. If you're watching on YouTube right now, I got an LSU hat on, an LSU shirt on, an LSU pullover on. I'm not ashamed to do it at all. If you're listening and you're within earshot and you're in South Louisiana and can get to the PMAC tomorrow, I think it'll be well worth your time, and it will certainly help this LSU basketball team. They've been playing in an empty arena for good reason against terrible teams while school's been out over the last month. And school's still not in at this point. So the student section could be a little bit light tomorrow. if you can fill that place up tomorrow as best you can, I would highly, highly recommend that you go check that out, because LSU needs your help, and they need to try to win this game. Again, not a single bit of shame in the local radio guy who's quote-unquote unbiased, not unbiased, would like you to go to the PMAC for the game tomorrow and see if LSU can't start conference play with the win. It's important that LSU gets off to a good start, because there's a meat grinder right there in the middle there where it's going to be hard to find wins anywhere. So when Vanderbilt comes to town, got to try to find a way to get one, and they'll do it tomorrow for an afternoon tip-off. All right, we'll come back and close out the hour. A little bit of Saints conversation as they finish things up with the Bucs, and then get you ready for the NFL weekend at the top of hour number 2. All right, come back with us. Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Saints will wrap up their season in Tampa on Sunday. It's a noon kick on Fox. Tampa, a 13.5-point favorite in this game, and for good reason. Bucs have everything to play for. With a win, they clinch the NFC South. The Saints with very little to play for other than truly the spirits of the city, which are obviously going through a bad week with the attacks there on Bourbon Street. As I look at this game, I'm not going to sit here and break down the X's and O's very much. I don't think anybody's here for a ton of that. My concern is, and it's not really a concern, it's just a suggestion, there's no reason for Alvin Kamara, Derek Carr, and Chris Olave to go out there. I know that Chris Olave has returned to practice this week. I know that Alvin Kamara and Derek Carr have not to this point. It's admirable if Kamara wants to try to get that 1,000-yard season. Is it necessary or reasonable? No. Derek Carr does not need to go out there with a broken hand and play in this game against Tampa. That's not really proving anything. It's not really helping anything. I'm certain there are some people in Atlanta that might feel differently, but since when have the Saints ever tried to appease anything that anybody in Atlanta is trying to do? And then Chris Olave, you're dealing with concussion. And I realize he's been out there at practice, been working out, and he'd like to go out there and play a little bit of football. Check's going to cash whether you're out there or not. I would just as soon not go out there. That's a scary hit that he took about a month ago, and there's just no issue enforcing it. So to me, the biggest issue is the Saints veterans, who I'm sure admirably want to play. And there's nothing in their past that would suggest anything different. Alvin Kamara has been a consummate professional every single step of the way, even through this contract negotiation and playing through pain all year long for a team that was mired in a 7-game losing streak. Derek Carr has shown toughness over any quality that he's shown in New Orleans. He's been tough as nails and tried to go out there and play, and it's been very, very admirable, but he's been banged up because guess what? Saints offensive line hasn't been very good because they've been banged up. So just sit it out. It's one more game. Just sit it out. And then as far as Chris Olave, take care of yourself. You want to come back next year? I'm all for it. That's awesome. And I think that there's reason to expect that he will do that. But I just don't think there's any reason for those three teams to play. There is a little bit of a streak on the line here for the Saints. They've been held below 20 points in 5 straight games entering Sunday. If they're held below 20 points on Sunday, which I believe they will be, that'll break a tie for their longest single-season streak since 1996. It's about 20 years of futility there actually 30 years of futility there. God, that's just hard to go back that far and consider that that's how old I am. But yeah, it's been a long time since the Saints have been this bad on offense. And so, again, injecting those guys into it, which was already a bad unit, I just don't see any sort of anything to – there's no reason to push it, is what I should say. Mike Evans does have a reason to push it on Sunday. Mike Evans needs 85 yards to tie Jerry Rice for the most consecutive 1,000-yard seasons in NFL history with 11. He's only gotten 85 yards in his career 3 times against the Saints, and the last time was 2018. What do we know about this entire run with the Saints? Marshawn Lattimore has very often been on the other side. That's been a talking point when these two teams have gotten together year after year after year. Well, Marshawn Lattimore is now in Washington. So Mike Evans probably licking his chops, and I would imagine Baker Mayfield has every intention of getting his guy the ball for 85 yards in the game coming up on Sunday. Again, I think if you're trying to find a local angle here with the Saints that's not revolving around draft picks, which we talked to Luke Johnson yesterday about that, you're really not guaranteed to move much. It's looking like you're right around 10th. You're not going to fall back to 13 or 14. You're not going to move up to 6. Like, you're looking to be locked in somewhere around 10 or 11, no matter what your outcome is in this game on Sunday. So that's not really a storyline. Clyde Edwards-Helaire likely to get a big amount of carries in this game on Sunday because you're looking at Alvin Kamara likely not being available and Kendre Miller likely not being available as he comes off of a concussion last week. So it'll be Clyde. We'll see if he can find some creases, find a reason for the Saints to keep him around for another year. Ross Jackson wrote a great piece on LouisianaSports.net last week after the game about how meaningful it was for Clyde to put on that uniform and to play in the Dome for that city when he grew up just down the road here in Baton Rouge. So he'll get a big opportunity in the game coming up on Sunday. I've kind of exhausted the Spencer Rattler storyline. We know that the offensive line has not been great and that the wide receiving core is kind of a group of misfit toys at this point. I'm disappointed in the Saints defensively and the way that they've played really on every level. You would hope that the corners kind of show some sort of shine of life. They were not good against a bad Raiders team. So there's just not a lot of meat on this Saints bone, and my contention is they probably lose this game by 20 points or so, and finish this season 5-12, and then go into what is a much more interesting chapter in the New Orleans Saints story, which is what direction does this franchise go from right here? You start the opportunity to go try try to hire a coach. Mike Vrabel is reportedly interviewing with the Jets this weekend. He is eligible to do so after his contract with the Browns went up. I would assume the Saints would like to talk with him as well. And that's kind of the state of mind that a lot of Saints fans are in. What's next? And it doesn't have a lot to do with what's going on in Tampa on Sunday at noon. So Tampa's a 13.5-point favorite. I would lay those points and not feel bad about it at all. I would suggest that Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans probably have a big day against a weakened Saints defense, and I just don't think the Saints are going to have a ton of success offensively because they haven't had success offensively in over a month. So that's where I am on Saints and Bucs. Give me a final score of somewhere in the neighborhood of 31-13. I will take the Tampa Bay Bucs to win and cover down there at Raymond James in Tampa. That's it for hour number 1 here on the Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Feeding the office, birthday party coming up, or just got a Hester-sized family. Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp, fantastic on their catering game. Check out the menu, corksfishandshrimp.com. We'll come back and get you ready for the final week of the NFL regular season, plus my thoughts on LSU and Vanderbilt tomorrow. That's all coming up in our final hour of the week. It's a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Every car that's on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. When you think wow, that's a real bad tongue twister there. When you think Genesis, you should think luxury. When you think luxury, don't think, I can't afford that. Go buy and try. Go buy and see. Work with one of their brand ambassadors. See what's available to you over there at Genesis. They've got phenomenal sedans all the way up through the SUVs, and they are fine vehicles. I have sat behind the wheel of a number of them, and they are phenomenal. Just try it out. If you're on Airline Highway, you're shopping for a car, that's where most people shop for cars in Baton Rouge, then come on by and make one more stop. It's there at Airline and Pico across from Women's Hospital. Got phenomenal deals with all their cars, including a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty on all of them, 3 years of complimentary maintenance on all of them. Every car on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. That is GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial properties. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel says quarterback Tua Tagovailoa is unlikely to play Sunday against the Jets with a hip injury. Miami can make the playoffs with a win and a Broncos loss against the Chiefs. The last game of the regular season will be in Detroit Sunday night. The Lions and Vikings for the number 1 seed in the NFC. Lions coach Dan Campbell.
These all out, come to the end of the line type games, and so we know what we're getting ready to play and what we're getting ready to face, and so we're looking forward to this competition.
Commanders corner Marshawn Lattimore out for Sunday's game against the Cowboys with a sore left hamstring, the same injury that kept him out for 5 games earlier this year. ESPN's Shams Charania reports Kings rookie Devin Carter will make his NBA debut tonight against the Grizzlies, where his brother Anthony is an assistant coach.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Candy. Coming up Monday, I'll recap the last weekend of the NFL during my Upon Further Review at 7 a.m. Eastern. It's Unsportsmanlike weekday mornings at 6 right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. One more hour till we're at the weekend. If you're done for the week, enjoy it. If you're not quite to the finish line yet, we'll get you there here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. I just saw Matt Moscona in the hallway, which is quite impressive considering he hasn't been here in like 2 weeks. But he's here, so he'll be here on After Further Review coming up at 3 o'clock. I will be at the Rouse's, Burbank, and Lee at a little after 3 o'clock hanging out. So you're going to do some weekend grocery shopping? Come hang out with me. Beck, how's Sahith Thagala doing? You told me how great a pick that was yesterday when I told you about my fantasy golf pick.
Yeah.
Right out of the chute, first pick of the year, Century Tournament of Champions, Sahith. How am I doing?
He is currently tied for 54th, and this is a 60-player tournament. He's 54th.
He's beat 6 guys?
4 or 6, yeah.
So
6,
last year, the final round of the Century was the lowest round in relation to par in the history of the PGA Tour. So Sahith obviously shot, what, he shot 65 yesterday?
He shot 76 yesterday.
76.
Yep, he is 3. He's currently.
I can shoot 76.
I don't know if you could shoot 76.
Not from those tees, but in my life, I've shot number of 76.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's not very good.
No, it's not. He's currently even through 3 holes as well. No birdies
I
yet.
did, in the course of doing the research for this segment we're about to get to, I discovered that my fantasy team, Baton Rouge's Eeyore, which was so adequately named, I was named that by the Tiger Droppings crew, so I used it as my fantasy football team name. I, this year, had Saquon Barkley, who is 101 yards away from the all-time NFL single-season rushing mark, and Brock Bowers, who is 9 catches away from the all-time single-season tight end catches mark. That's great roster composition by me. Don't ask about the playoffs. Not important. Didn't get that done because Saquon got hurt in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We can't have that.
Tough.
But that's incredible roster composition by me, an incredible GM. What a fantasy player. Got a guy that's almost in last place on the PGA Tour and can't win a fantasy game with 2 of the greatest seasons in the history of the sport. So that's where we are. Let's get ready for Week 18 in the National Football League.
Hold on. It's not.
I'm going to hold on.
It's okay, there we go.
There it is. Now we're ready. Tier 4. I got to be honest. I thought there would be better matchups this week in the NFL than there are. There's a lot of Tier 3 and Tier 4 this week, but we'll get through it. The Jaguars are at the Colts. I try to find a fun fact for all these games. There's nothing at stake or fun about this game at all. The best fact I could find is that Brian Thomas Jr. needs 5 touchdown catches to pass Allen Robinson for the most in the single season by a Jaguar. He's got 10 on the whole year, and he's second. So I don't think that's going to happen. Don't watch the Jaguars and the Colts. All right, Bills at Patriots. This is Tier 4. The Bills are the 2 seed no matter what. Josh Allen is going to start. And the only really other intrigue is that the Patriots lose, they pick first. So they should probably think really hard about losing. The Giants are at the Eagles. As I mentioned, Saquon Barkley, 101 yards short of Eric Dickerson's single-season record, but he will sit for the Philadelphia Eagles in this game. The Giants are really trying hard to screw all this up. They're terrible. They need to overhaul the whole deal. They need a new quarterback. They won last week. They might win this week because the Eagles aren't really trying. Everybody knows that the Giants are in big, big trouble. All right, 49ers are at the Cardinals. This is Tier 4 as well. How bad is this game? ESPN.com, one of the sites I use to find some nuggets, their bold prediction in this game is that somebody named Mac Wilson is going to bat down a pass. That was literally what they wrote on ESPN.com. That's how bad and uninteresting 49ers at Cardinals is. So we'll move on from that. Tier 3, not great, but here we are. Browns at the Ravens. Myles Garrett and Trey Hendrickson are currently tied for the NFL sack lead at 14, so Myles Garrett will try to win that crown in this game against the Ravens, who, if they win, will win the AFC North. The Panthers are at the Falcons. Can Michael Penix kind of keep it rolling? We'll see. Bryce Young's actually been a little bit better. However, he is 0-12 on the road. That's not very good. The Falcons need help from the Saints to win the South. They also need to take care of business against Carolina. We'll see if they can do it. Still in Tier 3, the Bears are at the Packers. If the Packers can sack Caleb Williams 9 times in this game, he'll tie the record set by David Carr for most sacks of a quarterback in a season. I don't know if they're going to get there 9 times. Josh Jacobs has a rushing touchdown in 7 straight games, which doesn't sound that crazy, but no one has done it in 8 straight for the Packers since Paul Hornung in 1960. So we'll see if Josh Jacobs can get
Paul
that
Hornung?
done. Yeah, whatever. Hornug, whatever. Same guy. You knew who I was talking about.
There's an award named after him, huh?
I don't care about Paul Hornung. He's old. He probably wasn't that good. All right. Probably good. I don't know.
He was pretty good.
Texans at the Titans. Houston has locked in at the 4 seed. The Titans could pick anywhere from 1st all the way back to number 7, so it'd be in their interest to lose the game. The Chargers are at the Raiders. As I mentioned earlier, Brock Bowers needs 9 catches to break the all-time record for catches in a season by a tight end. Jacob Beck, do you know who holds the record for most single-season catches by a tight end?
I'm going to guess Tony Gonzalez.
Incorrect. I think I could give you 10 guesses and you wouldn't get it because I don't think you would get to Zach Ertz.
Nope.
But he does hold that record. The Dolphins are at the Jets. Aaron Rodgers needs 1 touchdown to get to 500 in the NFL. This is likely his last game as a Jet. That's it in Tier 3. Let's go to Tier 2. The Bengals are at the Steelers. The Bengals have won 4 straight to stay alive. The Steelers have lost 3 straight. They are reeling. The Bengals gave up 264 yards after the catch in their loss to the Steelers back in Week 13. That is the most anyone has allowed in a single game all year. We'll see if the Bengals can pull off a miracle. They would be a little dangerous in the playoffs if they got there, but I don't think they're going to get there. The Commanders are at the Cowboys. Dallas at home this year, minus 116-point differential. That's just awful. It's the first time since 2000 that Washington has laid more than 2.5 at Dallas. They're almost a touchdown favorite in this game. The Chiefs are at the Broncos. I put this up here solely because of the Broncos implications. They need a win or a tie to get in the playoffs. The Bengals, of course, need the Chiefs to win. And for that to happen, Carson Wentz is going to have to play pretty well because Pat Mahomes is going to sit this one out with a bum ankle. Seahawks are at the Rams. The Seahawks are out, but this is a money game for Geno Smith. And when I tell you it's a money game for Geno Smith, it's a money game for Geno Smith. He gets $2 million each for these things. If they win, 10th win, $2 million to Geno. If he throws for 185 yards, hits an incentive, a $2 million bonus there. And he's got to finish the season at 69.76% completion. He's 1 point higher than that at 70.2 right now. How many checkdowns is Geno Smith going to throw in this game? I think a lot to try to get to $2 million. And Tier 1 is 1 game. The Vikings are at the Lions on Sunday Night Football. We'll wrap it up without the music. That's okay. We just about got there, but it's the most games they play.
Well, it's not it's just there's a little bit of a break between the
and then that comes.
Song, yeah.
And that's really what we need for Tier 1, isn't it? Vikings and Lions, the most wins between competitors in the history of the NFL. Not surprising because both of them have 14 wins. The winner will get the 1 seed. It's the first time we've had a winner gets the 1 seed game since 1993 when the Cowboys played the Giants. No Lions running back has ever had 3 straight 100-yard games. Well, shouldn't say that. Hasn't happened since Barry Sanders did it in 1998. Jahmyr Gibbs could do it on Sunday night. The Vikings are the NFL's oldest team. They would really like to get a bye. They need that win to get a bye in Detroit. And Dan Campbell is 4-1 against Kevin O'Connell. The Vikings are -7 in the turnover margin in those 4 losses. Man, here we'll see if they can get it done in this one. The Vikings kind of came out of nowhere. We expected it from the Lions, but they've done it with a lot of injuries. So looking forward to that one on Sunday Night Football. That is the slate for the NFL in Week 18. Beck, what are you looking for in this one? The Bengals? Gotta be the Bengals.
Well, So the Bengals, if they can, what are all the other results?
So
that
they
have to
need
happen?
the Chiefs to beat the Broncos in Denver with Carson Wentz.
That's possible, I think.
How hard are the Chiefs going to play? They're the 1 seed. I
hope. I was actually listening to Live Lunch on the way here, and they had Bruce Marshall on, and he was saying, he was mentioning how, the people always talk about, oh, well, these teams are resting guys. Well, the guys that are playing are going to be playing hard. But they're obviously not as good as the starters.
The point is that you can't rest all your starters. You can't put the walk-ons in in college.
Yeah.
Like you've got your 53, and Mahomes can sit, and if they want Kelsey to take his shoulder pads off, he can do that too. But like, you're probably going to start your deal. I mean, Chris Jones, I guess they could sit. Like, there are some guys, but it's only like you can only choose to sit like 4 guys or so. You got to play the rest of them. But you just got to think that the
Broncos should win the game. I think
they should. I need Bo Nix to really gag.
We've seen that happen before.
We certainly have. I've also seen him just go absolutely nuts inside Tigers. I will see that play that he made when he scrambled around all over the field and threw it to that crossing tight end. I will see that in my nightmares. That was just it's an amazing statistic that all those great Auburn teams over the years, the 2 guys that came in and busted the streak were Bo Nix and Brian Harsin. Brian Harsin came in.
Sitting on a couch right now.
Just he is. He's but yeah, they need that, and I don't know that they're going to get it. They also do have to go on the road and win a game that they don't win all that often. They're at Pittsburgh. I don't know. The Steelers do have, they can still win the North. So they're they would need the Ravens to lose to the Browns, which is unlikely. But the Browns aren't going to rest anybody, and Myles Garrett trying to get sack records.
Bengals,
so
2.5-point favorites right now on the road in Pittsburgh.
The Bengals are good. They're not good on defense.
Their defense is horrible.
But Burrow and Chase are just obscene. It's ridiculous. They just gagged too early, as is always the case. They got to figure. I don't know if Zach Taylor's going to be around if they lose or they don't get in, but I don't understand why they're so bad so early. You could have pinned it on Burrow getting hurt, the appendicitis, and all that kind of stuff that happened early. But it's just too consistent. They get off to a terrible start every year, and in that conference, you just can't do that. You can't expect to consistently go to Kansas City, to go to Buffalo, to potentially go to Baltimore. Like, you're never going to get through that consistently. They did it once. But it's just hard to imagine them consistently doing it now. I don't even think they're going to get into the playoffs. So we'll see. I'll be pulling for them, but I have my sincere doubts about how that's going to go on the win day. But that's looking at the NFL slate for Saturday and Sunday. All right, LSU and Vanderbilt tomorrow. I'm excited for this one, y'all. I think you can probably sense that. I don't know how geeked this town is for basketball at the moment. I have my hopes and wishes, but I also have my reality. So we'll see. I'm going to tell you about Vanderbilt coming up. They've got some really eye-catching statistics on 2 different aspects of the basketball game. So we'll talk about some of that, my key thoughts for LSU. And I still have to talk about LSU's defense by the numbers. If you missed this in the first segment of the show today, I talked about LSU's offense by the numbers, and those numbers were really reflective of what we saw. There were some of the things that I saw defensively that kind of surprised me a little bit with where LSU ranked in the Southeastern Conference. So we'll do that coming up in 30 minutes. Hoops when we get back, though. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. Actually, exchanged texts with Jonathan Carbo earlier today. Going to swing by Highland Insurance Group next week. I said, any chance I can get by to look at some driver registrations, some name storm deductibles, hail deductibles, uninsured motorist forms. I'm all in for it. Of course, none of y'all have any idea what I'm talking about, but it's insurance. It's insurance-ese, and I'm still fairly fluent in it from my days in the industry. It's not the most fun thing to talk about, but it is important. I have also sat there at my desk when insurance and seen insurance save businesses. When Ida came through and folks lost power and had to be closed for multiple weeks, and you're talking about small businesses, insurance can be the savior. And it's not if your policies are wrong because you cut some corners so you could save a couple bucks on the premium. That's what you need to try to avoid if you're a business owner. Jonathan Carver and his team at the Highland Insurance Group can help you out with all of it. They can also do your group and employee benefits. They're your one-stop brokers. They're an insurance independent agency right here in Baton Rouge, and they're fantastic to work with. You don't have to be in Baton Rouge. If you're just looking for another option, you're in the state of Louisiana and would love to talk with a broker that knows what they're doing, talk to Jonathan Carver and his team at the Highland Insurance Group. You can find them online at highlandig.com. It's the Highland Insurance Group, highlandig.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency. The light.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Friday show is brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Got a hankering for a po' boy? Corks is a spot. Awesome loaded shrimp po' boys, jumbo, golden, brown shrimp. Awesome catfish po' boys as well. I always tell the story. Glenn West told me I turned him on to Corks po' boys here in Baton Rouge. Glenn's a New Orleans guy. He knows a po' boy. Says that Corks is as good as there is in town. I would concur. That recipe for that golden fried catfish, jumbo shrimp, born right here in the seafood capital of the world, South Louisiana. They're on Government between Foster and Jefferson. Get on by and see Michael and Paul. Tell them that you heard about them on the Hunt Palmer Show. Get you a po' boy over there at Corks. LSU and Vanderbilt tomorrow from the PMAC, and I can't wait to get in there. And in a little different capacity these days. For the last few years, I've been able to go in and put on my purple and gold and cheer pretty loud, get a cold pop or two. Now I'll be sitting up at the press row, which is just fine. LouisianaSports.net, I'll have you covered there. I would submit maybe not quite as fun as going in and grabbing a cold beer and screaming, but I'm be excited to be in the building. And you can do the screaming for me. I got my LSU stuff on today. I'll probably have on some Navy shirt tomorrow, but you'll know where my allegiance lies. And I'm excited to see LSU and Vandy in the PMAC. Vandy is very interesting. I would have thought, entering the season, and I don't really try to really dive deep into SEC basketball rosters around Thanksgiving. They're all kind of overhauled with a lot of transfers, and I just kind of wait till I can watch. But I would have picked Vandy to be among the worst teams in the league. They weren't very good last year. Certainly Missouri was winless in league play, but Vanderbilt wasn't very good last year. They ended up parting ways with Jerry Stackhouse, and they bring in Mark Byington, who comes from James Madison, who kind of took over the college sports world last year. You got Signetti, who moved on to Indiana in football, and Mark Byington, who moved on to Vanderbilt in basketball, and he went to the transfer portal and kind of scraped some guys together, and they've played really good basketball to this point. At this juncture, after non-conference play, Vanderbilt is 12-1 on the season. They've got wins over Cal. They beat the Cal by 16. They beat Nevada by 2. They beat Seton Hall by 16. Won at Virginia Tech in that ACC Challenge by 16 points. Beat TCU by 9. So they've had a good go of it in non-conference play. Their lone loss was to a good Drake team by 11 points there. So quality team and a team that has some eye-popping statistics to this point. They lead the country in steals per game. They steal the ball 11 times per game. And we know that LSU has had their issues with turnovers, and you just simply can't do that against this Vanderbilt team. They will make you pay for it with points off turnovers in bunches. And so that is absolutely unequivocally key number one in this game. You look at Vanderbilt, and Tyler Tanner has been great with them, especially in terms of taking away the basketball. He leads all freshmen in the country with 32 steals. That's 15th among all players in the country. He comes off the bench. He's a smaller point guard, freshman, real quick. Jordan Sears has got a lot of years on him, and they're just as quick as one another. But you've got to take care of the ball and not let Vanderbilt take it from you. And it's not a deal. We talked to Vanderbilt's play-by-play man in the first hour. It's not a deal where Vanderbilt gets into a full court press and gives you Nolan Richardson 40 minutes of hell. They don't play some sort of trapping three-quarter court defense. It's not like some sort of relentless ball pressure up and down the floor like some of Shaka Smart's VCU teams. It's just a defense that is built on quickness and instincts, and it's effective, and they play small ball because of it. The tallest guy that's going to start the game tomorrow very likely is Devin McLaughlin, who's 6'7". They'll put Tyler Nickel out there, who's 6'7" at well, but he's more of a shooter. They'll start a couple of 6'4" wings, and then Jason Edwards, who will probably start the game, is 6'1". He may not start. He may come off the bench. He has over the last couple of weeks. But you're talking about a lot of guards that are going to be on the floor, and they're going to be aggressive in passing lanes and aggressive in terms of trying to turn the ball over. And meanwhile, while Vanderbilt does such a good job of turning people over, they don't turn it over a lot. They're 7th in the nation in turnover rate offensively. And so when you only turn the ball over on 13% of your possessions, you become a beast in terms of turnover margin, and they're 5th in the country in turnover margin. What that does is it allows you to outshoot in terms of the volume of the shots your opponent. And when I looked at Vanderbilt's stat sheet, it checks out because they have attempted about 80 more shots than their opponents, and they've attempted about 80 more threes than their opponents. And it just stands to reason, if you get 80 more shots up than your opponents, you're going to outscore your opponents significantly. That's the statistic I'll be most interested to see tomorrow when I read the box score. I'll go down the steps and I'll go into the courtside club and I'll wait for Matt McMahon with the rest of the crew, and Matthew Bruni will be there, and Glenn West will be in there, and Michael Cobble and Jacques Doucet will be in there, and we'll be waiting on Matt McMahon, and one of the SIDs will walk over and hand us a stat sheet. And the first thing, I'll know what the result is, but the first thing that I think will be they'll tell the story was LSU's turnovers, Vanderbilt's turnovers, and how many shots and free throws the two teams got. Because both of these teams have been pretty good as far as defensive efficiency goes. Vanderbilt's 21st in the country. LSU's in the top 25. LSU's first shot defense has been fantastic this year. But if you get outshot by 8 or 9, 10, 11 shots, and they shoot 8 or 9 more free throws than you, it's going to be really tough to win the game. That is the story of this game. Now, the good news for LSU is that Vanderbilt doesn't hurt you badly on the glass. I mentioned they don't have a lot of size. A lot of the time, the tallest guy on the floor for Vanderbilt is going to be 6'7". You talk about offensive rebounding percentage, they're 124th in the country, which playing a little bit of a lighter non-conference schedule is not a huge number. And that's been LSU's bugaboo for the majority of the non-conference portion of the schedule, allowing second shots. I just mentioned it. Their first shot defense is good. You've got to clear the glass. And that goes into allowing additional shots as well. I think on LSU's home floor, the Tigers have a little bit of an advantage here. I'm curious to see what the line is posted tomorrow. Vanderbilt has not shot the three great, 34%. That's 165th in the country. And LSU hasn't shot the three great. It's always a make or miss sport. I say that a lot, and it's very cliche, but it is true because you can make bad shots and you can miss good shots. And you'd rather take good shots, but some days it's your day, some days it's not. That's kind of the story of this game. I can talk to you about some of the players Vanderbilt's got. Jason Edwards comes off the bench and leads them in scoring at 18.5. I mentioned Tyler Tanner, who's been sensational with 30-plus steals and doesn't turn the ball over really ever. And then they've got Tyler Nickel, who's a knockdown shooter at 37% from three. They've got Jason Edwards, who shoots 40% from three. So it's a solid team, but it is a team that's on the bottom end of the SEC as far as talent. I believe LSU is in that boat as well. I think LSU's got a little bit of advantage here, and it's a huge, huge game. Now, I've tried this for 2 weeks, and I'll try it one more time. Actually, I'll probably try it a few more times as we move forward into some of these tougher games. But this is going to be really difficult for LSU over the course of 18 games. I think LSU, as far as what I've seen, is in the bottom 4 or 5 as far as raw talent in this league. However, LSU's old, they defend, and they've got a couple guys that can score and shoot. They haven't done it consistently, but they can. And we've seen LSU handle business against mid-tier teams from Power 5 leagues. They handled Florida State. They handled Kansas State. They handled UCF. This is kind of in that vein. I think Vanderbilt's similar to some of those teams. I think the bottom of this league is probably, in no specific order, just in this group, Vanderbilt, Missouri, LSU, South Carolina. That's Georgia-ish. Like, that's kind of the bottom tier of the league. You need to take advantage of those games. And when I say that's kind of the bottom tier of the league, I don't mean they're bad teams. They're not. None of those teams are bad. There's usually a couple of bad teams in the league. Missouri was bad last year. Vanderbilt was bad last year. Nobody's bad from where I'm sitting right now. And LSU's not bad, but I think they're going to be in a fight to try to win basketball games in this league. Tomorrow's an opportunity to get it done. And if you're a fan that's kind of getting into basketball right now, I promise I'm not like preaching. I'm just telling you, there's a couple 30-point beatdowns coming LSU's way. There's a 3 or 4 game losing streak coming LSU's way. Like, it's just not avoidable, in my opinion. If they don't have any of that over the next 18 games, I will hold my hand up, say, wow, I underestimated this squad. I underestimated last year's squad, and they gave me reason to in the non-conference. And maybe I'm just being a little bit protective and defensive of a basketball program that is not mature at this point. But I'm just telling you what my eyes see, and that's all I can sit here and do. My eyes tell me this league's going to be really rough. LSU has a chance to get to 7 or 8 wins, but it's going to take some doing, and it really needs to start tomorrow. And I've done this twice. I'll do it one more time. Please try to come out to the PMAC tomorrow and support the team. The student turnout is probably not going to be great because they're not in class. It's a great game time, especially for those that may be 45 minutes or an hour outside of Baton Rouge that can come in, not compromise your entire day or your evening or get home too late. Check it out. See if you can get some tickets and come on in for LSU and Vanderbilt. Should be a good one in the PMAC. I'm looking forward to it. My full preview for this game is going to be up tomorrow morning at LouisianaSports.net, so I'll tweet that out. If you follow me on Twitter, you can check that out. Speaking of LouisianaSports.net, I wrote a story earlier today that detailed LSU's offense football-wise by the numbers. I talked about it at the top of the show. I'm going to do defense coming up next, and the defensive statistics did surprise me significantly. I'll tell you why coming up next. Beck, we got a button?
The Hunt Palmer Show.
We do have a button. That was a great job. Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com is that website. Mitchell Fisher and his team are fantastic. I told you earlier in the week about how quickly they helped us last week. We found out, we told Myers, hey, can you go open that front door? He can. He had not been able to do that previously with the lock there. He can do it now. We don't want him opening the door on his own. We've got a sensor right now that tells us the front door has opened, but it only echoes off the keypad right by our garage. We want one in the bedroom. So we called Mitchell Fisher and said, hey, we'd like a sensor put in the bedroom as well, so that when one of the doors in the house opens, we're alerted if we're back there in the bedroom. And he did. He came over 2 days later. They got it installed in 25 minutes, and we've been thrilled with it. That's part of the customer service of working with a local company like Audio Video Security Solutions. There's nothing that's as important as your home and your family and their safety. And Audio Video Security Solutions is who we've trusted at the Palmer House with our home security. If you have a need for a security system at your home, cameras, keypad, burglar alarm, all that, they can handle it at Audio Video Security Solutions. You can check them out online at avssla.com. That's avssla.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
All right, let's talk a little football here on this Friday. Hope your work week is winding down or has wound down. Getting to the weekend. I'm headed to Rouse's Burbank and Lee coming up here in 25 minutes or so. So if you're doing some grocery shopping this evening, come see me, Rouse's Burbank and Lee. We can play a little Plinko, potentially win a gift card, win some shirts, hats, cups, keychains, talk some sports. I always have a good time at Rouse's. Looking forward to that. Jacob Beck, how would you say LSU's defense performed this year?
I would say better than 2 years ago, but not much.
Better than 1 year ago.
Or sorry, 1 year ago, yeah.
But not much. So not much. You would say not very good.
I would say below average.
Okay. I probably would have said the same. I did a piece for LouisianaSports.net, which is going to be posted tomorrow, but this is the gist of it that I'm going to go through it in this segment, do it in video form and audio form. The numbers are really bad. I mean, really bad. And that surprised me a little bit because I didn't feel like as you mentioned, last year, I thought they had no chance, like ever. And I didn't really feel that way this year. I thought they had a chance. But the numbers are bad, and we'll go through them. In a 16-team league, LSU was 14th in the league in scoring defense, 24.3 points per game. They were 11th in total defense, 14th in yards per play allowed, and then tackles for loss, 13th in the SEC. And those numbers are all really, really poor. And then you go in to break them out into rushing and passing, and you can't even really delineate. They were 12th in the league in run defense. In terms of yard per carry allowed, they were 13th. Rushing touchdowns allowed, they were the worst in the SEC. They gave up 26. That's dead last. They were 10th in passing defense. They were 12th in completion percentage allowed, 12th in yards per attempt allowed. They intercepted the ball the fewest times in the league. All these numbers are down in the bottom 3 or 4 teams in the league. Maybe I'm just not on the same page as maybe some of you, or maybe I am, but it surprised me that the numbers were that stark. You were 7th in the SEC in sacks, and then in terms of explosives, it was not good. 20-plus yard plays, you were 13th. In 10-plus yard rushes, you were 12th. In 20-plus yard passes, so big plays through the air, you were 10th. On third down percentage allowed, you were 14th. In red zone touchdown percentage, you were 14th. It's pretty shocking. In the piece that I wrote for LouisianaSports.net, I laid out 22 statistics. LSU finished 10th or worse in 17 of the 22. And the only statistic that LSU's defense was top 3 in the SEC was fourth down defense, which I don't even know that you could take a lot from. I mean, how often do you have the opportunity to stop a fourth down? A couple of times a game? It's a huge play more often than not, but it's such a small sample size. And if you had told me in August that's what this would look like, I probably would have bought it. I think that a lot of you, especially if you're on Instagram or social media, can recall a segment I did that got a lot of views on Reels where I went on and was like, I don't think these guys can cover. And because we would go out to practice and it looked like pitch and catch for Nussmeier and the wide receivers. And I talked about it. And a lot of folks, barked back at me, suggesting that was stupid and that Corey Raymond was going to fix it and that Ashton Stamps was great and Zy Alexander was back. And I had concerns. And then early in the USC game, they did cover. And I thought against Ole Miss, they did a pretty good job. And outside of the big running plays against South Carolina, I thought they did a decent job. But when I start to look at these statistics and realize that you're in the bottom 3 or 4 in just about every defensive statistic, my presumption is that this has a lot more to do with Jimmys and Joes than X's and O's. The names that I rattled off in this written piece, and I just kind of pulled from recent memory. So when I look at LSU's defense this year, I just don't see Michael Brockers and Glenn Dorsey and Benny Logan on the interior. I don't see Kaylavon Chason or Kiki Mingo or Arden Key or Marcus Spears on the edge. I don't see Kevin Minter. I don't see Kendall Beckwith or Devin White. I don't see Patrick Queen. I don't see Patrick Peterson or Derek Stingley or Morris Claiborne or Tyrann Mathieu. I don't see Jamal Adams or Eric Reed or LaRon Landry. And you realize that I'm going through some of the greats of the last 20 years, which is the golden era of LSU football. But you had those guys on every team. I'm not going to do the exercise, but I can point to just about every team and pick a couple of guys on defense that played in the NFL for 6 or 7 years. And when I look at this defense, I just don't see it. Maybe Braden Swinson plays for a little bit and becomes a pass rush specialist. Maybe Savion Jones sticks around for a little bit. Harold Perkins didn't play much for this year, but maybe Zy Alexander surprises me and sticks on with a team. But you certainly didn't have any all-conference players outside of Whit Weeks. And you just, to me, didn't have the personnel of those classic LSU defenses. And that's what the difference has to be. I do think that Blake Baker can coach defense. I do think that Corey Raymond can develop corners. I do think Bo Davis can develop defensive linemen. I think Kevin Peoples did a really good job this year. I don't know a ton about Jake Olson, but I trust Blake Baker's acumen for dealing with the defense. They've got to go get dudes for this defense. And so let me lay out some names here, and we'll see if this is fixable from 2024 to 2025. I think these guys have a good chance to start for the next defense. And I'm not telling you they're going to win the Thorpe Award or the Nagurski Award, but could they be all-conference players? Could they be second-round picks? Jakeem Jackson, former 4-star recruit, sophomore starter at Florida. DJ Pickett, 5-star recruit. Harold Perkins, healthy. Patrick Payton, who's had as many sacks and tackles for loss in 3 years at Florida State as Kiki Mingo did at LSU. Whit Weeks in his third collegiate season. Dominic McKinley or Ahmad Bro in their second season with another year in the weight program. If you could tell me that a couple of those guys are first-team all-league players, well, all of a sudden this starts to feel a little bit different. And I realize that first-team all-league players come in better defenses and all that. It's a chicken-and-the-egg type deal. But, like, I'm hopeful that you have found some of those great players who are eventual 5-year starters in the NFL. Because without that, you can't compete. When you look at the top of the league this year, Texas and Tennessee were in the top 7 nationally in total defense. Georgia was 30th in the country in total defense, and they played a murderous schedule. If you play at the level LSU did, you have no chance to compete for championships. You can't compete for championships with the number 14 scoring defense in the SEC. You can't compete for championships finishing 13th in the SEC in tackles for loss. You can't compete for championships if you're 14th in the SEC in red zone touchdown percentage allowed, if you're 14th in the SEC in third down yardage allowed. You can't compete for championships in the SEC if you allow more 20-yard plays than 12 teams in the SEC. You just can't. And I thought as the dust settled on this team defensively that they were like, yeah, they were average. They weren't average. They were bad. And it's up to the staff now to determine why that was. Was that because you weren't prepared? Was that because your scheme was bad? Was that because your tackling was bad or your execution was bad? Or was that because you didn't have the guys capable of going out there and getting it done? Here are a couple of statistics that I want to harp on briefly that I think indicate the Jimmys and Joes aspect of this. LSU was 12th in the SEC in completion percentage allowed and dead last in interceptions. I think those statistics point straight to dudes. Because you just call the defense and you tell them to get in their stance and go play. Guys making plays on the football is not the scheme. It's not. Guys making plays on the football is guys who know how to make plays on the football. And in my estimation, LSU did not have enough of those guys this year. Jakeem Jackson, Mansour Delane, DJ Pickett, those are the guys that need to come in and push for spots. We'll see if they do. But that's a look at LSU's defense statistically. Not good enough to be a championship-level team, and that's the expectation around here. Whether you think that's realistic or not in 2025, it's the expectation. We'll see if they can get there. All of our LSU content is online at Hunt on LSU. You can find it on YouTube, wherever you find your podcast. Search Hunt on LSU and check all of that out. I forgot to mention this in the last segment. We talked about basketball with LSU and Vanderbilt. All of our basketball content, if you'd like to find that and not try to wade through the full shows to see it and you're interested in basketball, Hoops with Hunt is back. It's on the same feed it always was. So just search Hoops with Hunt. Same purple and black logo if you were familiar with that from a long time ago. But it's just all of our basketball segments from this show repurposed into Hoops with Hunt. So I invite you to go check all of that out as conference play cranks up tomorrow. One more time out. We'll come back and wrap it up. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Your buying experience at Genesis of Baton Rouge is going to be luxury in every way. You're going to feel like a guest at their dealership, not like a customer. Their brand ambassadors are going to help you every step of the way. Could be in the store, could be completely remote. Have them come to you, but they're first class to deal with. They're not going to be pushy. They're not going to be salesy. They're just helpful because they don't have to be salesy. Once you get behind the wheel of these Genesis, you'll understand the difference. It's a phenomenal line of vehicles, and they're as safe as any cars on the road. Every single model in this line of vehicles has been given the IIHA top safety pick, and some of them were top safety picks plus. If you're looking for safety, they got you covered. Sleek design, got you covered. Comfortability, got you covered. It's an incredible line of vehicles over at Genesis. Highly suggest you check them out at Airline near Piku. They're right next to, across the street from Women's Hospital. New on the block, it's Genesis of Baton Rouge. Go check them out, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
At Atmos Energy, our Smart Choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
The Hooters College Football Bowl Pick'em Challenge presented by Yingling is underway. Make sure to check the leaderboard and your inbox to see if you qualify for the final round of picks and your shot at $1,000 cash and $200 from Hooters. Our grand prize winner will be notified January 13th. It's the Hooters College Football Bowl Pick'em Challenge presented by Yingling at 1045ESPN.com. And Week 18 in the NFL starts tomorrow when the Ravens host the Browns at 3:30, followed by the Steelers and the Bengals. Big one there at 7 p.m. And then tune in Sunday when the Cowboys host the Commanders at noon, followed by the Chiefs and Broncos, which will also be a big one for the Bengals and Joe Burrow at 3:25, and the Vikings and Lions at 7:20. Your home for the NFL is 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
So I got to pick between the Century and the Bengals tomorrow?
Seems that way. You can just have them on both. You can have.
I'll monitor both. That's
Yeah.
going to be like a 70-30 situation.
Yeah, I think so. Probably. Yeah, it's only the second round for the third round for the Century. So I mean, still got Sunday.
I'm going to go 70 on the Century.
Really? Yeah. Okay. I guess
primetime golf on that golf course has my heart. I realize that there are, I don't know how many people exactly listen to the show every day, but there are only 3 people listening that agree with that take, that they would rather watch the Century than the Bengals. The other 99+% that are listening to the show think that's the stupidest thing they've ever heard. And that's okay. We can all kind of do what we want to do.
Well,
this is what it is.
And the you've kind of transitioned, it seems, to being more of a Jaden Daniels fan than Joe Burrow,
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah.
I fist pumped for the Bengals last week. I did for the Commanders as well. But the Commanders they're in. So like that's where we are.
Yeah.
Joe and Jamar are stars. Like they're incredible. And I want them to get in. I just don't have any confidence that there's too much that needs to happen. I feel
there's a lot.
But we'll see. I'm if they get in, I do think they're dangerous. And I would love it if they got in and shook things up a little bit, but you still are probably going to have to go to Buffalo and Arrowhead, and that's just not a great recipe with the defense that the Bengals have displayed. The thought of Josh Allen against that Bengals defense makes me a sad dude.
No, that wouldn't. I don't think that would work out too well.
It's not good. But good for Joe Brady, doing a great job. We'll see if he gets the Saints job, which is exactly what we're going to be talking about on Monday's show when we come back after a weekend of sports. We can finally get into some Saints coaching search talk, as Mike Bravel apparently is interviewing with the Jets this weekend. His contract with the Browns, the consultant, is up, so he can go ahead and take those interviews. The Jets are going to talk to him first. I would hope, sincerely, that the Saints will talk to him, but we'll see. I've got a station survey coming up at LouisianaSports.net about who the folks here think the Saints are going to hire. We'll get to some of that a little bit later, too. To end things, let's play some Take It or Leave It.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
All right, first one here. There will be 9,000 plus in the PMAC tomorrow. Take it or leave it.
Ooh, I'll leave that for sure.
Leave it alone.
That was quick. I'm thinking about half that.
Jeez, Hunt, really?
I think 4,000, 4,500. I don't trust this town in early season basketball. If Kentucky was coming in, or Arkansas was coming in, or Bama was coming in, I would go higher. But Vanderbilt's not going to get it done. I hope I'm pleasantly surprised. I don't think people are going to go to that basketball game tomorrow.
Okay. All right, next one. On his team's upcoming matchup against Ohio State in the college football playoff semifinal, Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian said, quote, "Clearly we are massive underdogs and no one is going to give us a shot. Take it or leave it."
Sure, take it. Whatever.
I'll take it.
It's a classic coach. Kirby Smart came out at one point and said that nobody thought his team had a shot. So that's one of my favorite things. When I'll just bring one certain example up. When Devontae Smith won the Heisman Trophy, he's like, nobody gave me a shot. It's like, Devontae, you're a 4-star recruit, top 100 in the country. You got scholarship offers from LSU and Alabama. You started as a freshman and caught the national championship winning catch and won the Heisman Trophy. Who exactly was doubting you at this? Where was the doubt? I don't know who it could have been. You were given every opportunity and you earned every opportunity along the way. I just don't know if you had that many haters.
Yeah.
If Cam Scadaboo wants to get up there and tell me that there were a lot of people that doubted him, I'll agree with that because no one's ever heard of him. But Devontae Smith, and it's not unique to Devontae Smith. This happens all the time with supremely gifted athletes. Like, everybody doubted me. Really? Did we doubt you that much? I don't know.
All right, last one. The NCAA is considering allowing 5 years of eligibility for players in all sports moving forward. Per an NCAA official is from John Rossi, a lot of other sources as well. But the topic will continue to be discussed in early 2025, apparently. Take it or leave it.
I mean, I'll leave it.
Leave it alone.
I'm going to, go with the flow here, and LSU will do what they do with it, whatever. But I I feel like as a society, we've just pretty much said that every rule is a bad thing and we need to change it. Just we're relaxing every rule and regulation we have. And I'm not sure what to do with that. But you can pretty much, I mean, you've got guys playing 9 years of college football. Isn't that tight end that was at Oregon and ended up at like Florida State or Miami playing 9 years?
Yeah. Either not.
What are we doing here? Look, as I've always said, how does it impact LSU? Probably not very much. I don't know how many 5-year guys you're going to have. You may have gotten Rafe Rhymes
You'll get
or
a
Mason
Josh
Cat.
Williams every now and then.
Yeah, that wanted to play for 5 years or whatever. But I don't think it's going to matter much. This is probably for lower level guys that want to keep playing, and I don't know that's going to affect LSU, where guys are going to just want to leap to the next level. So that'll do it for Take It or Leave It here on this Friday. Of course, our Friday shows brought to you by Corks Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Highly recommend you check out that menu at corksfishandshrimp.com. Catering options are always available, and they're awesome at it. Big old trays of that crispy fried catfish, jumbo Gulf shrimp, crispy shoestring fries, the coleslaw, honey butter rolls, beignet bites, crawfish etouffee. They got it all over there at Corks. Government between Foster and Jefferson. They bring you our Friday shows each and every week. That's going to wind things down for us here on this abbreviated week of the Hunt Palmer Show. Hope it's been a good one. New Year's off to a good start for you, and that you have a great and safe weekend. We'll be back Monday recapping Saints, Bucks, and LSU Vanderbilt. Hope the Tigers can get it done in Game 1 of conference play. I am headed to Rouse's Markets on Burbank and Lee. I'll be there until 5 o'clock, so if you're in the area, feel free to stop on by. Guess what? Big surprise for everyone. Matt Moscona is going to drive you home today. Been a few days, but he's back in the captain's seat. He was the Sugar Bowl, so he's probably got some stories. I'm out of here. Y'all have a great weekend. See you Monday, same time, same place on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine